So this part now of today is on why decentralized cooperation is important for the local and regional governments' global policy agenda. So this is, of course, for those who work with UCLG in any form, regional section, connected in association, you know our eternal battle about visibility and considering local and regional government. So the policy agenda we have now with us on decentralized cooperation is and on SDG is not the only global agenda. I will just remind the milestones of the global agenda for in the next slide. So when you see here the evolution, similar, Charles made a very nice presentation on the evolution of how of what decentralized cooperation is. But when we look on the global agenda, we can connect here the opportunity of decentralized cooperation to connecting more to the global agenda. So if we look back, we can see the last 20 years when the Busan Partnership for Effective Development Cooperation was signed by the United Nations. This was the first of many milestones to consider local and regional governments more. So actually, Charles mentioned before, our CIB group, the Capacity Institution and Building Working Group, had made a very important policy paper by that time that was useful to really show national governments and international agencies how important is decentralized cooperation. And this policy paper, by the way, is now redeveloped because we have achieved a lot, and that's why it has to be updated. After Busan, the next milestone was the Addis Ababa Action Agenda. This is the framework for financing sustainable development and the recognition of the local and regional government's role as also a key actor in financing. So we can say the Busan Partnership, there was an Article 34, who where the first time in an international agenda, local and regional government are mentioned. And then in the Addis Ababa Action Agenda, the financing is also, of course, a key. That agenda is very crucial because here the way of seeing cooperation from the North-South angle, I think Charles also made that point, towards a more global, taking the local actors much more in consideration and the impact of cooperation more into consideration. This was taken up here. And we can say that this financing agenda is a continuous fight because even we advance in recognition of local and regional government, the financing is not necessarily increasing. On the contrary, the financing for development, that what time was mentioned aid, for aid effectiveness. Nowadays we say cooperation. The financing available has been decreasing constantly, and that is, of course, some part we have also to face, and we have to work with as an enabling environment for us now and the new way of cooperation. Then the climate change, the global climate agreement, this on advocacy, in terms of advocacy, is a very big highlight. It should never not be underestimated, because here also in Article 15 on the local government are recognized as main actors for the climate agreement. The climate agreement was also a highlight in mobilizing so many leaders to that Paris Agreement in particular, but every COP is always calling for more local government, and is also seeing and giving the voice and recognizing more the work of local governments. And the finance to the allocated to the climate agreement is very important. So for you to keep in mind, the climate agreement has more financing for cooperation also, because of course it is a new challenge, and the challenge, the United Nations has been is more successful in also raising the attention financially to the nations. And not only, but also through different financing modalities. We have here with us also one of our finance experts. I have to highlight Mathilde is with us, and maybe later on in any group work we can come back to this. Then the Sendai Framework, this is the resilience agenda, and it is the first time here. Also, there's target E in the Sendai Framework, where local governments are recognized and where nations are obliged to support local government. And then the last agenda is the New Urban Agenda. It is here before the SDG, but actually it was time-wise after. But the New Urban Agenda is like the way how all the agendas would connect in the work of municipalities and on urban and on urbanization. So this agenda is a very important agenda, because this is the agenda for habitat, but it's also an agenda for us about SDG 11 and about national urban policies, sub-national urban policies. And this agenda, maybe it is a little bit stuck in evolution, because it has been, it was a very big ambition in principles. We are very happy there on all the principles that had been considered, but the implementation is not that easy. And we look forward now, Habitat is really taking it up through mainly through national urban policies. And the last piece is the agenda on sustainable development. This was, as I said earlier, than the New Urban Agenda, but this is maybe the overall largest agenda ever. And this is the most sounding global agenda, I think, of all, because it's not only sounding for government, it is also sounding for private sector, for stakeholders of all kinds, for NGOs. So here we have, of course, our SDGs. The SDG 11 is the urban SDG called, but mainly the SDG 17, and this is for us the crucial SDG for decentralized cooperation, because there are several pieces we will come to in a lecture later on, that the SDG 17 is really an enormous opportunity to show, to connect, to call attention, and to attract more stakeholders to the decentralized cooperation. So this is in a nutshell and in a very basic timeline, the overview of the advocacy agenda of UCLG in these global agreements that have something to do with Agenda 21 and decentralized cooperation.